Well,
this might surprise people given my normal old American libertarianism, especially the title of this video. But I've been watching this channel, Left Libertarian. Yeah, there's a "the" in there. That might make it hard to find if you don't know about the. There's some good points in there, and I'm not willing to go all the way though. But I'll say where my agreements and disagreements are. My agreement is that no businesses to have like one guy in charge of everything or overly hierarchical can be very totalitarian, just as totalitarian as a totalitarian government. Even if it's private, it's still kind of totalitarian. And you could still say it's voluntary. You could just go get a job somewhere else, but that still smacks of the old if you don't like America, get on out, go to Russia, Cuba. See what I mean? Now, I have to admit that it's a lot easier to get another job than it is to move to another country, because if you get another job, you don't have to move out of your city. If you move to another country, you literally have to move far away. Like for Kansas, going to another country, that's that's a long distance. So we're nowhere near any borders. If I was getting a job, you could just go across the street. But still, it still smacks of that. If you don't like it, you can leave business. And that's why I'm not really so against the idea of workers controlling the means of productions and democratic type business organizations. You know, and this is another time when the distinction between capitalism on the one hand and pure market forces on the other, or pure market on the other, has to be distinguished. Because a business which is run democratically, or at least collectively, without a capitalist. So pretty much a business without a capitalist. From what I can tell, that would not be considered capitalism. But you could argue that it's still a market because there's still production involved. There isn't a state involved, so there's no state in there. And it's still voluntary. You know, you can leave the collective if you want to. So to me, it's still that's the confusion. That's why I don't like it when people equate capitalism and the free market, because they seem like different things. Because capitalism seems specifically the idea of one or a small group of people running businesses, whereas the market could potentially be like worker self-management, like in Left Libertarian's channel. So yeah, the only disagreement is I'm not really. There's some things that's very difficult for me to buy. Like, I don't really see what's wrong with classes. Like, I don't see what the big deal is if there's rich people and poor people and middle people when it comes to having resources. Plus, I saw a good argument for why it might be beneficial to have rich people. And that when new gadgets, expensive gadgets are made, they're really, really expensive because they're in the early stages of their gadgetry. You know, like cell phones and cars and computers. So it really helps to have rich people around, because the rich people can buy the expensive gadgets. And when the expensive people start to buy the gadgets, the gadget people can focus on improving the gadget more. And eventually they can lower the price. And the more they lower the price of the gadget, the larger the worker pool, until a cell phone goes from being several $1,000s to being several $100s, to the point where the cheapest phone at Cricket, I think, is about it was like either $60 or $80. And if you had a phone with Cricket already, you can they give you. You can get a replacement phone for cheaper if you get the same like category of phone. So if you got the cheapest phone they had before for like $70, and then like a year later you like drop that phone in the toilet, you can get another phone for $35. But anyway, yeah, that was good. It seemed to me a good argument for why it's not so bad that there are classes. So that's one thing I can't jump into when it comes to left libertarianism. And it does seem like left libertarianism is really close to libertarian socialism. And in fact, if anyone, if any of my subscribers really they are really well versed in left libertarianism and libertarian socialism, it'd be really cool in the comment section if you can compare and contrast them for me, because I have to admit that I do know a little bit about them, but I don't know them very well. Like, I don't know them as well as I know like objectivism and agorism. So if you can help me out, compare and contrast left libertarianism and libertarian socialism for me. Thank you. So yeah, there's that too. They seem the left libertarian channels guy talks about like he seems, I don't know if he says it directly, but he seems to imply he wants a classless society along with a stateless society. And he did come out and say he's against advertisement, which I don't know. I don't really see what's wrong with advertisement either, because it just seems like advertisement is a good way of making sure resources are allocated well. The same with profit and loss systems and money and whatnot. So yeah, I think I still like this channel. I'm subscribed to it, but I disagree with most of it. But I really do agree that businesses can be very authoritarian, and I'm not one of those what Kevin Carson would call a vulgar libertarian. I don't think that whatever the private sector does is good. You know, just because it's private doesn't mean it's fantastic. No, mainly because it seems like the only way to get really, really big in the private sector is through the government. So there's that too. And even then, it still seems likely and possible that they could run very authoritarianly. That's why some people do go to market anarchism or libertarianism, because they think if you could just get rid of the government's hand in the private sector, then it'd be easier to form socialist type businesses, or I guess what I would call collective market businesses, I guess, because it's still market but with like socialist principles. So market institutions with socialist principles, which it's really hard to get, but I'm thinking market almost in the term of like Bakunin or that type of market, or Proudhon. I forgot. One of them talked about markets. I really should know this, but I don't know too well as I should. But yes, they can be authoritarian, and the workers should have some control over it. And that's the thing. I'd like to see it where businesses really change in that direction. Like, it'd be really cool if you could have businesses that have unions, but in a manner in which the state doesn't need to get involved all the time, except maybe to enforce contracts. If you ever have if you do have to have a state, then it has to do certain things. Actually, that'll make my next video, I think, about how the options for libertarians shouldn't be none of this industry or a private version of it, but whatever. I'll explain in the next video. Yes, the workers should control the means of production. Workers of the world unite, I guess.